By the time a doctor diagnoses Alzheimer's disease, the brain has already been silently deteriorating for up to 20 years. Every memory lost, every personality change, every moment of confusion, the damage started decades earlier when the person seemed completely healthy. But now, scientists have built AI systems that can detect the disease up to 10 years before the first symptom appears, and catching it this early could change everything about how we treat it. Today, around 55 million people worldwide live with dementia, with Alzheimer's disease standing as the most common cause. By 2050, that number is projected to triple to more than 150 million, driving annual global healthcare costs toward $3 trillion. When a patient first experiences mild cognitive symptoms, the underlying pathology is already in its late stages. Inside the brain, billions of neurons have already died. Critical cognitive regions have been systematically disrupted by amyloid beta plaques and tau tangles, which have been silently accumulating for up to 20 years. This damage is largely irreversible once cognitive decline begins. Historically, the tools to confirm this biology in living patients have been heavily restricted. Positron emission tomography, PET scans, are expensive, costing between $3,000 and $7,000 out of pocket. Lumbar punctures to extract cerebrospinal fluid, though highly specific, are invasive and painful, carrying a modest Medicare reimbursement of about $135. Because of these financial and physical barriers, clinicians typically order these tests only after cognitive symptoms appear, using them for diagnostic confirmation rather than early screening. This reactive pathway makes preventive clinical trials exceptionally difficult. Because researchers cannot easily find asymptomatic carriers, they cannot test therapies before structural damage occurs. By the time a patient is identified, the biological window to protect their neural networks has already closed. To understand how technology can intervene, it helps to look at the silent decades before symptoms appear. In this preclinical window, detection focuses on identifying heightened risk patterns and pre-symptomatic biological signals while a person still feels entirely healthy. This long phase represents the critical window for medical intervention, offering a chance to act before physical damage becomes irreversible. The biological sequence starts early. Amyloid beta proteins begin misfolding and accumulating into plaques roughly 15 to 20 years before the first signs of memory loss. For a long time, the brain compensates, but eventually, hyperphosphorylated tau proteins form neurofibrillary tangles spreading from the entorhinal cortex into the hippocampus. This structural shift ignites a cascade of neuroinflammation. As immune cells in the brain become chronically active, they inadvertently damage healthy tissue, driving synapse loss and cell death. By the time cognitive symptoms are noticeable, the structural destruction is already advanced. This silent runway is where machine learning finds its utility. Instead of relying on late-stage diagnostic tests, algorithms are trained to scan for subtle, disparate clues across a patient's life. These clues include structural changes like microscopic brain volume reduction on standard MRI scans, and trace concentrations of amyloid and tau proteins in simple blood draws. AI can also scan electronic health records for hidden metabolic patterns, analyze everyday speech for acoustic and linguistic drift, and capture microtremors through computer vision hand movement analysis. Each of these distinct signals targets a different point on the 20-year timeline, offering a way to map the silent progression of the disease. By analyzing these biometric markers in parallel, researchers aim to identify the path to cognitive decline long before the first word is forgotten. In February 2024, researchers at the University of California, San Francisco published a model in Nature Aging that analyzed routine electronic health records. By tracking millions of clinical data points, this algorithm predicted Alzheimer's risk up to 7 years before clinical symptoms emerged, achieving roughly 72% accuracy. Instead of traditional cognitive markers, the system identified specific combinations of risk features, including high cholesterol, osteoporosis in women, and erectile dysfunction or enlarged prostate in men. Beyond clinical records, molecular signals in the blood offer an even longer runway. A January 2025 autoantibody panel reported presymptomatic detection up to 10 years before clinical onset, though it remains an early validation stage research milestone. Where blood panels suggest systemic risk, imaging tracks physical structural changes. At the University of Cambridge, a machine learning algorithm analyzes T1-weighted structural MRI scans to identify characteristic patterns of brain volume loss in areas like the hippocampus. By combining these scans with standard cognitive test scores, the algorithm predicted whether mild symptoms would progress to Alzheimer's in 4 out of 5 cases. This system is currently undergoing pilot testing in clinical trials with 80 patients at Addenbrooke's Hospital. At the same time, physical behaviors offer another diagnostic pathway. The TAS test uses computer vision and standard webcams to analyze fine motor control during simple hand movement tasks. By mapping microscopic motor cognitive drift, the test identifies subtle motor changes more than 10 years before cognitive symptoms appear. None of these individual methods are definitive diagnostics. Instead, the future of clinical screening lies in multimodal testing. Pairing blood autoantibody panels with MRI volumetrics and speech screening could significantly improve both lead times and accuracy, minimizing false positives and false negatives compared with any single test. This evolving diagnostic pipeline relies on a network of specialized labs, private enterprises, and global data consortiums. The foundational data powering many of these machine learning models comes from the Alzheimer's Disease Neuroimaging Initiative, which tracks patient progress over decades. At UCSF's Sirota lab, scientists built their predictive model using millions of standard clinical points, including routine ICD codes, laboratory results, and prescription histories. For physical screening, the Cambridge University neuroscience team trained their structural MRI algorithm on volumetric atlases to detect microscopic tissue loss. On the molecular front, Durin Technologies designs its blood panels using targeted immunoassays to isolate specific autoantibody signatures. This screening ecosystem is also expanding into consumer devices. In the United Kingdom, smartphone-based trials are analyzing natural speech patterns, focusing on subtle word-finding pauses, acoustic changes, and sentence complexity. Together, these tools convert raw medical data into an active, everyday defense against cognitive decline. A 72% accuracy rate means that nearly 3 out of 10 predictions are incorrect. In medical practice, this translates to devastating false alarms for healthy individuals, or missed signs for those who need care. Researchers have validated most of these algorithms only in controlled academic settings, leaving them unproven in large-scale clinical practice. Even with a successful early warning, patients face a stark medical reality. No drug has yet proven to slow or stop Alzheimer's when administered during this asymptomatic preclinical phase. This leaves patients and their families with a heavy psychological weight, years of profound anxiety, and difficult lifestyle decisions without an approved therapy to offer. Sharing this deeply personal biometric data also carries significant risks. AI models that analyze everyday speech recordings and electronic health records rely on highly sensitive personal files, raising concerns over informed consent and data privacy. Without strict legal protections, these early risk profiles could easily jeopardize long-term care insurance or employment, years before any cognitive decline begins. An early warning holds clinical value only when paired with medical intervention. Emerging amyloid targeting therapies like lecanemab and donanemab show that clearing toxic proteins early can slow cognitive decline. As these treatments move earlier in the disease progression, they will require scalable screening to identify asymptomatic patients. Accessible, smartphone-based cognitive tests could provide the practical, population-level screening needed to bridge this gap. The realistic future of Alzheimer's care is not a sudden cure, but a coordinated system. By pairing digital screening with early therapies, medicine can transform a terminal diagnosis into a manageable, chronic condition. Subscribe to follow the future of medical science. We are moving from a reactive past to a predictive future. I cannot yet cure Alzheimer's, but finding its earliest signals gives us back the one thing this disease steals: time. Time to prepare, to intervene, and to hope. Subscribe to stay informed on the future of medicine.